Yo, internet, what has happened? Welcome back. And S197 things, no way. What we're doing today, you might recognize this color, is we got a little 09 Bullitt here, and it was brought to me from a guy named Butch in Texas to do a little bit of my magic here, make it modular. What is that, you may ask? Well, let me show you what he's got going on under the hood. He was super bummed that it rained on the way over here in his open deck, but we got a clean, about 130K 09 Bullitt here in the dark harvest green, whatever it's called. And oh my goodness, what has he done? All things that are good. So let me tell you a little bit about his car here. He obviously swapped the Coyote, first gen. We got the first gen computer already in there, paths deleted. He kept the 5-speed, and why did he bring it to me? Well, if you notice, there's a couple things missing here. No trans harness. We got the engine harness sitting there, and what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna fill those missing items with my own little like hardwired swap harness here for Butch to get this thing up and running. We're not gonna just make a harness to throw it on here. When I have a client's car that I'm gonna do this type of work to, I'm just gonna hardwire it for them. It's gonna be a lot cleaner, and it's the same amount of labor for myself versus making a harness that involves the same amount of hours, and I can tighten up the harness length and stuff. Not saying that my harness length for what I sell to everybody else is not right. It's just that things are left a little longer so that if you want to put things in a little different spot, you can. But when we have the car in front of us, I can make everything exactly as long as I want it to be. So we got a stock Gen 1, just with the Boss intake. Other than that, that's about it. Mustang engine, and we got the fuel system done. Everything's mechanically done in this car except the wiring, and that's where some people are a little leery of doing their own wiring. We have the guide to do exactly what I'm going to do here, and dozens of people have already used the Make It Modular wiring guide so that you can do exactly that, is hardwire it without buying a harness. But I like to call it a time versus money thing. Like, spend $1,000, don't have to wire anything, or spend 12, 14 hours like I did on my 07, which happens to be back. And wire it yourself. So you decide and what's better for you. So I'm gonna get this thing in the air because I'm a little taller than most and don't feel like bending over, and gonna start getting going on this thing. I haven't seen our guide that we have on for sale that I came up with a couple years ago. I've been slowly refining it after learning some more things. This is what I'm gonna use to hardwire this thing. It's interactive, so like for instance here, got the MAF signal return. This is just one portion. Like, you can screenshot all this you want. This will get you about 10% of the way, but this is the difference between the 70-pin body connector of the Coyote and the 50-pin Coyote connector, ECU body connector of the 4.6. So you get that wire transferred to the Coyote one where it's supposed to be. It tells you what pin on the Coyote is, what pin it belongs to on the 4.6. Now in this instance here, the first one doesn't actually go to that connector, it goes to the MAF, but the next one down goes from pin 7 of the Coyote to pin 2 of the 4.6. And then when you get done splicing that, whether it's the outside one or the one within the two connectors, it'll turn green over here so you can follow along, and then if you gotta go poop or go eat or something, you know exactly where you're at. So that's what we're gonna use. I'm gonna get all the connectors that I'm gonna need laid out on the car and start getting after it. It's pretty simple. It's almost like making a harness for you guys, but just on the car. So this is essentially all you need to hardwire the Coyote. This is what I use. Everything is here except the low AC switch, which is still in the car, which I'm gonna borrow because I haven't found like a standalone connector like these. So that I can buy pins and stuff, because the pigtail is expensive and you're not going to use the pigtail on the car anyway, so we'll make that nice and neat. If you've been a fan a long time, you'll see that I did the same thing on my 07. So just peel back that loom and it'll be all nice and neat. So there's your body connector for the Coyote, inline female that's going to connect to the engine harness. We got trans inline, and then that's going to connect to the inline on the car, pedal, AC, mass airflow, big fuse box connector. If you have to ask where I get all these, I'll just give you a website, because like finding all these part numbers takes many hours. I can't let all my secrets out, so there's that. So now I also have like a dandy spreadsheet for myself to get all the pins and stuff that I need, which I have stored away here, so I can get them all in a tray. I haven't done this in a few years, or a couple of years with my 07, where I hardwired it and I did splices instead of repinning stuff. So I really want to, I haven't done it like mobily, so to speak. I've done all the harnesses here where everything is accessible and I can just grab pins, blah, blah, blah. So I'm gonna get a little tray here, get the pins that I need, and go from there. Because there's some stuff, like when I build a harness, like I don't need all the female pins here that I'd use, the male pins on the adapter that we don't need in this application, and so on and so forth. But we're gonna need pins for these connectors and whatnot. Got my little kit here, so I can kind of put this on top of the intake manifold. And yeah, got all my pins and connectors, what I'm gonna use, what I counted. Probably gonna need some more of the female 1.5 or 0.64 pins, but yeah. So now let's get this a little better here. It's gonna be real nice against that strut bar. Ooh. So basically, first thing I'm gonna do is go through the first page of my sheet and repin this. Take this one pin at a time and put it on the 70 pin here. I go through all that, and then I'll go through the harnesses that break off of that. Difference between the harness is that last time I hardwired this, I used like plastic loom in the 07 to make it kind of look factory. I'm gonna use my flex tick stuff, so I'm gonna label it as I go. So I got my Sharpie and my tape, so that I'll make the length, put the pin on the end of the wire, and label it as such. So here we go. It's my favorite part of the job. Just one wire. Our starter relay control is transferred from 4.6 connector to the Coyote. So I can't remember how many are exactly need to be transferred, but I'm just going to concentrate on moving those over. The ones that don't need any splicing, you just transfer one-to-one from whatever pin I have found that needs to go over, blah, 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 and go on that. So yeah, that's the start of it. So it'll be like 30 or so wires I'm going to transfer over, and then some of the wires get interrupted, like the low AC, and then we need breakout harnesses for the mass airflow, because on the Coyote cars, that's part of the body harness. The mass airflow on the 4.6 cars is part of the engine harness, so you have to make a breakout harness for that. And then the accelerator pedal, I would usually go under the dash and rewire it, but it is a large pain in the ass to get all of your crimping tools and all that good stuff. So I'm just gonna run a breakout harness with a new pigtail there to the pedal, which he's already got swapped to a 5.0 pedal. And what else is there? And the trans harness is gonna be everything that goes there, about 14 or more wires, just in that one connector, along with the big connector, the fuse block. So yeah, just kind of give you an idea of what it takes to hardwire this thing, and a little more if you missed or didn't care to see the video where I did in my 07. I actually spliced things, but I didn't have the confidence or these repinning tools where you just, put them in there, take the pins out. I wish I would have done that in mine, but I know my splices are good, so I'm not too afraid of that being not integral or a good connection on the 07. It's just it was a cleaner and faster way to do it this way. So I'm going to carry on, and I think the next time we'll talk to you now is when I start to do the other breakout harnesses. So I did as much as the just straight transfer ones. As you can see, there's not too many. I know at least 6 of these wires we're just not going to use because they go to the throttle pedal, and I find that to be an unreliable connection. Just doing it, like I said, not gonna swap that pigtail, but no, this is the first splice for the starting circuit. And then there's all sorts of different splices we gotta do off of this. So it's a good feeling once I get all this done and can finally relieve the car of its 4.6 connector. So yeah, just keep trucking. All right, at a good stopping point, I'll show you what's kind of involved. This is pretty daunting if you're not familiar with all this. So I got a couple breakout harnesses from the Coyote ECU connector. That's all gonna go to the pedal. I have them all labeled so that I can run the loom and then put the connector on there. Got this breakout one for the MAF and the AC, high AC. And then a couple already started going to the fuse box, big connector, and the inline. I couldn't terminate my inline yet because I need the transmission harness in place to get a good length, but I just wanted to get that one done because it tied into the 4.6 connector. So yeah, there's a lot of work involved when you're hardwiring this so far. So this is why I kind of came out with the harness, because this is, no easy task. It can get very confusing. The guide does help a lot with that, because right now I got a good stopping point and I do need to stop. So I'm just gonna pick it up when I come back to this project, and it'll be like I never stopped. I don't have to think about where I was. Just look at where the check boxes are and go from there. So I'm still on the first page of the guide. So as you can see, there's still a lot of wires in the 4.6 harness. Like I said, 7 of those will be discarded or shrink tubed off, and still got the grounds and some power stuff that we're gonna take from there and whatnot. So yeah, progress is progress. We're gonna keep on kicking. Okay, so I have completed just the 170 pin connector, and I still have the 4.6 hanging out there. There's a lot of wires in here that will get shrink tube, whatever. I ordered the transmission harness, so a lot of the inline connector wires are left a lot longer, so I can terminate them perfectly. And I figured I wanted to get as much done and transferred as I can to this connector so that it just feels good. So now I can move on to the inline that powers the engine harness, essentially all its components and whatnot. And as you can see, we got the accelerator pedal harness loomed up and the mass airflow and high AC loomed up. So those are just hanging out, all done and pretty. And then we'll make all this pretty once we're done getting all the other wires transferred and capped off, if you will. So I'm at a good stopping point. So I think that's about as much as I can do without that transmission harness. The best moment. Four 6 is kind of officially deleted there. So I'm at a point where I really do need my transmission harness. I got about as far as I can go. I have fuse box all wired. I've left a lot of these wires longer because they're going to go into the inline connector for the transmission harness. Same with over here. And made the inline for the engine harness itself too, to get power and everything. You'll notice, if you're savvy, that the oil pressure wire isn't there yet, but I can assure you, yeah, it is right here, because it's part of the one wire from the inline, and I had to extend it, otherwise it just does not reach, unfortunately. You notice a lot of these other wires hanging out here. So 7 of those are for the throttle pedal. I feel like to get a better connection, interference, whatever. I do have some occasional issues with this car hardware because I actually use the existing wires instead of making a breakout harness like I do for not only this project but my swap harnesses themselves. And This, I know for a fact that the yellow and black wire is airbag. There's Pat's wires that the Coyote just doesn't have. And one other thing was a brake switch that just ties for the ABS. So what I'm gonna do is just sip all those and shrink tube them up. And this will all be clean, and I can actually get all this loomed nice, and because this is all kind of tied together, because I don't think there won't be any other wires broke out of here, and then add a loom to that once it's all done and wired. So yeah, I'm pretty excited with the progress here. Had it here for a few days now, and it's shaping up to be pretty good. So it's been a couple days since I've gotten into this project, but see, I got it all loomed up. Accelerator pedal is almost to where it needs to. Mass airflow's hooked up. Haven't quite hooked up the AC switch yet because I still haven't received it until today, and haven't finished the trans wiring in line yet, or the fuse box wiring up, because I don't have the transmission harness until today. There it is. So this is the 13 to 14 GT500 transmission harness. Crack this bad boy open. Pretty regular. So this actually replaces your battery cables, both negative and positive. Let's get that thing to focus. And this also, just like the regular GT transmission harnesses, gives you the connections for your electric rack, which he has in there already. So we're ready to, I'm gonna put this on the car, and I gotta modify it. I'll show you once I do the quick and dirty on how that's done. So just by looking at this real quick, I'm fairly certain, yes, this is the speedometer, as it is on the 5-speed, but I think it's key difference. Last time I had to use the 5-speed pigtail, and then I think we have to shorten up the reverse switch. That might be the reverse lockout, because I believe, yeah, here's the reverse switch. So that is the same. I have to see where these land again. It's been, you know, almost 2 years since I did it on my 07 with this same harness. So I'm gonna hook up the battery cables, lay it all out in the car. We're also doing fuel system things on here. We don't have to go over that because we covered that in a previous video. And then I will also, for you guys that are keeping the 5-speed, I will be offering services to not only provide this harness for you, but also modify it in the way that's needed when you're running the TR3650 5-speed. So what that would entail would be, like I discussed, either lengthening this. I'm pretty sure I have to make this longer, and make the reverse shorter. I'll let you know either way. And we have to repin one connection in the ECU connector going into the computer. So yeah, I'll show you. I've shown how to do that, but I just want to let you guys know, you know, progress of this video and stuff, and that's where I'm at. Let me tell you, routing this harness with the engine and transit is a lot harder than it looks. I had to take apart the fuse box, or fuse, like the main mega fuses for the rack and whatnot, and go into the fuse box, because there's no way I was getting it through the headers, and then go on the front of the motor mount. I tried the back, and then they came up short over here. Just a little hot tip. But what I did was start routing the harness from the rack, because I knew that was a good reference point, because it's not exactly the same being a GT500 harness, but it does line up pretty good. You have to stretch a little bit on the alternator and the AC compressor, but it all hooks up. So got that routed. Gonna put that positive cable fuse block thing back together, and then put the battery tray in, get that all buttoned up, put the battery in, and then show you what the modification entails. Just like that, battery tray and battery back in, positives hooked up. A lot of the like Christmas tree clips, the holes are there and they work on the older chassis, so it looks very factory. Still got to hook up the main feed to the fuse block. Got the transmission inline in place. Got to make a ground bolt for this. This is going directly to the rack, and I don't know why they just don't go to the battery, but that's how it is. And so I'll be able to make my inline which I got plenty of wire to reach, so it'll make it all nice and neat. And there's wires going from here to the fuse block as well. Don't have the battery quite hooked up yet. And let's get into modifying the one pin you have to move in here. In case you don't feel like going to the video, I'll show it here. If you don't want to go in the previous video where I show how to make, it's titled Making Your Speedometer Work in Your Coyote Swap, blah, 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 a couple of years ago. I'll show you what it is now. And I'm actually got to refer to my own video, but in order to do this, clip that. You can even take it out when it's in that position. That easy. If it's out of your out of your way, gotta unwrap this just a little bit and take the wire shield off. Use a little pocket screwdriver and get in there and pry it off. But you gotta unwrap that tape first, and then you take your little screwdriver, get the protector off. Boom. Then you'll be able to access the wires or the little tangs to release the pins, and we just have to move. I'll tell you once I go look it up myself. One pin from its slot to a different slot. Why? Well, since this is a GT500 harness, the GT500 computer is looking for that speed signal on a different pin on its hardware. So we have to, this is obviously a Coyote computer, so we have to move that pin into where the Coyote expects the speed signal to be at on its hardware. So we're gonna do that first. Peeled back, and they have it labeled here nice, so you can see pin 35 is there, so it's that tan, and there's definitely a tracer on there. Can't really tell. Tan and green, and it's got to go into the open slot 14. So as you can see on pin 12, there's a little plastic blocker, so you got to take your little screwdriver, peel those back, and take some little needle nose and kind of work it back and forth to delete that little block off. Otherwise, you're never going to get the wire in there, period. All right, we got the harness buttoned up here. Starter's hooked up. Got a bracket that goes on one of the starter bolts. But you can see is the green, that's our reverse switch. That's where it terminates on the 6060, and that's where it needs to end up. So we got to extend those wires. And then here is our speedometer feed. Only makes it about that far, so it's like, you can see where the sensor is right there. It's about 8 or 10 inches short, so that's what we got to lengthen to make this harness work on the TR3650. Now getting on the back on the top side, I'm gonna wire our last little piece of the puzzle here for the hard wiring and get that inline connector hooked up and all its wires from the fuse block and the ECU, so that I can test at least the fuel pressure, priming anyway, because it's not going to stay on like a control pack would. Prime it and check for leaks. That's why I haven't buttoned up the back seat and stuff, because I want to check my work. And let's get after it. just like that. Loomed up, everything's all connected. Looking nice. I got one more engine harness ground to connect. And then, yeah, I'm going to at least turn the key on and check the fuel pressure, make sure the fuel pump's priming, hear the throttle moving and all that good stuff. Passes are deleted. Technically, I could fire it up. Kind of tempted, but I'm going to check the fluids, of course, because trust but verify. Customer said everything's full, but you can obviously see the coolant's full. I'm going to check the oil at least. And yeah, so I'm going to get this ground hooked up, and then hook up the battery. See what happens. All things that are good. All right, I tried to prime it a couple times. It's probably filling the filter. Everything's all empty. Getting about 20 pounds and holding, but I'm gonna prime it some more and see what happens here. So this is really good news. PCM's awake. Priming the fuel pump. Now we're at 40. Do it again. Hear the click. Hear a click of the relay, it's ready to prime again. Ooh, 50, almost 8, where that filter should be doing it. Hear a click, because if you turn the key before you hear a click, it won't prime again. Yeah, it's sitting real good. So I'm gonna check for leaks now. All right, no leaks, pressure has been holding nicely. So customer actually did the front line from the filter to the rail. Used Summit fittings. I've had bad luck with them in the past. Looks like they've improved. No leaks on my end. Got the filter in there with our return line. Looking real nice. Male to male to his line. Beauty. So now, like I said, I'm gonna get that ground hooked up and then, ooh, hello. Check the oil, see if this thing cranks over. It should run on a stock tune. The only thing that's different is the Boss manifold in the cold air. I just want to see if it'll run. Probably gonna run the greatest, but I just want to make sure all my stuff is good. All right, oil's checked. We're in neutral. We're just on jack stands here. Let's see what we get. Oh, wonderful. Well, it's cranking over fine and everything. I can tell it's firing a little bit. The engine light, check engine light was flashing, so I'm gonna take a dive into this, but I know the throttle works and all that good stuff, so let's see what's going on. Customer says that he did remember to put the crank trigger wheel on there, so that's a plus. And I tried flooring it. Obviously, it's not gonna be flooded, not cranking, but just had to try that. Tried unplugging the MAF. Didn't have the O2 sensors hooked up at first, tried that. No dice, still cranking. There's just like a whisper of a wish that it is firing on like 1 or 2 cylinders, but I'm not convinced. So next thing I'm gonna do is hook up the computer to it, see if it is getting a crank signal, and go from there. But I think next time I'll come back, we'll see what the problem was. So, all right, after some juicy fruiting around and a little hot tip from Christian at Power Hour, always saving my ass. It takes a village, whether you're raising a kid or raising a pony. I replaced the crankshaft sensor with one I had on hand just to be sure, because I hooked up the 4-scan and it said no cranking. I was like, what the heck? But I could hear like a little, I don't know in the videos you can hear it, every 4 or 5 seconds, just a in the exhaust. I was like, it's not completely known, but so I took the crank sensor out, made sure the wheel was in there, so trust and verify. Hooked it back up, still the same thing, and Christian, God bless him, I'm not a holy man or anything, but he's like, they switched the cam and the crank sensor. I was like, what? Sure. They were switched around. That crank sensor, it's not as protected in the foil as the cam sensor. It's closer to the exhaust. They can switch the same connectors and they both reach. Well, telltale, I verified the colors before switching stuff around on my book. They were switched. Put it in there, fire it up, let's go see. So yeah, this is super cool. One of my favorite cars. Make sure it's in neutral 452 times. Clutch in, keys on. Oh. Not a stock tune, so it's angry. Christmas. All right, all that's left to do is do some tuning with our tuner. I don't want to get into that whole can of worms in this world. You know how it is with tuning Coyotes. Everyone's got their favorites. I've used 3 different people. All good results. But I gotta get this thing on the ground since he put a steering rack in there, electric rack. It actually sprung for the Boss rack. Gotta line that up for him. Ran it through the gears. Still gotta calibrate the speedo with the TR3650, but it does work. And the AC works. And you can see engine bay looks like factory. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. We'll see you next time.